Me, Shannon, we've all lived here for decades.
Yeah.
Never seen this before.
I've seen a lot of trees down in this region,
Sure.
Big windstorms, but look at the diameter of the trunks of those trees. These are huge trees that are being just toppled over, and it's just amazing to see. And even that shot, you had that giant tree, and then 50 yards away, little spindly trees that are still standing. So you get the feel of how this thing came in, moved here, moved there, went up, hit back down or so. I have never seen anything like this. I'm not sure, Shannon, I've seen very many roofs torn off homes in this region in my career in this business, and here we've seen dozens.
Yeah, it looks like several in that area, in that cul-de-sac in particular, which appears to be the most hard hit. But yeah, this is reminiscent of something you'd see coming in from Texas or Oklahoma, where you can see clean into the homes. Very unusual around here, extremely rare.
I want to go back to the phones because we have Elizabeth Smith, who lives in Port Orchard, on the phone with us. Elizabeth, I understand that you are trying to make your way to pick up your daughter from preschool. First, let me just ask, are you okay? And as far as you know, she's okay, right?
Yes, we actually have just made it home.
Oh, you just made it home. Do you have damage at your house?
We did.
Can you describe to me what you're seeing? Oh, no damage.
There's no damage at our house, but everything that we were driving through, there was tree debris everywhere. It was pretty crazy out there.
Did you, were you
driving...
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Were you in the car or were you at home when this first swept through?
I was leaving work in Gig Harbor, and the road that it happened on in Bethel, I must have just missed it because her school is like, another 5 minutes down the road. I picked her up and I come back, and it's just a madhouse out there.
So you had gone through the area and it was okay? I'm sorry, you had gone through the area and it was okay?
Yeah, the road that I go through that it happened on, that's the road I travel through to go get her. Everything was fine. The wind was crazy. It was, downpour of rain, and then I get out of the car to get her, and then it's just hail, and we come back out to the car, get back on the road to head back the road I just came on Bethel, and then the trees were everywhere.
That's remarkable. It sure gives you a sense of how quickly a storm like that can pass through and the incredible damage that can happen in a really short amount of time. Glad that you're okay. Glad your daughter's okay.
Thank you.
Can you tell if you have power at your house and everything too?
Yeah, we do have power. All the streets that we were driving down, though, none of them had power. There was another street that we were driving down that had a bunch of aid units, and just past that, as we were passing through, you could smell gas. So I'm not sure what's going on with all that, but possible gas leak maybe, I don't know.
Elizabeth, I'm curious if you've had a chance to talk to any neighbors or friends or family, and if you can give us some kind of a feel of how everyone in Port Orchard is feeling about this. Stunned, amazed, I'm guessing?
I'm not sure. I'm part of a Port Orchard site on Facebook, and everybody's talking about it on there. Everybody that's been talking on there seems to be doing okay, but they've never seen anything like this. It's pretty crazy right now. As
we're talking to you, we're also getting pictures and showing pictures. On one hand, some actual video of this tornado that came through. On the other side of the screen, a giant tree that is just crushed down on top of a house and a garage. Tell us some of the things that you've seen as you've been driving around.
There's a lot of tree debris in the road. Just like I said, I ran in to go get her, and I didn't see any of this before, and then all of a sudden it was just everywhere. Tree branches everywhere. Everybody's saying that their lawn art's missing and it's in other people's yards or in the road, and it's undescribable right now.
Have you seen much in the way of the emergency response? We've seen that there are quite a few firefighters out. It looks like they're going door to door in the area that was hit the hardest. Did you also see a lot of those medics and emergency responders?
Yeah. When I was heading back on Bethel to go to the grocery store before we even realized what had happened, it was cop car after cop car driving by us, and aid unit after aid unit, fire truck after fire truck. But I didn't realize it was right in front of us. And then they had everybody turn around to go a different way, and then we go down a different road, and it's even worse down there. And
And how far do you live from where all this damage is, just to give us a sense of, because you said you've got power, no damage at your house, and you saw all that terrible damage.
We're about 10 minutes away.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, 8 to 10 minutes if that, yeah.
Elizabeth, you know, we've been talking here in the newsroom and on the news set that none of us have ever seen anything quite like this in our region. I don't know how long you've lived in the Port Orchard area, but have you ever seen anything like this in the area that you live?
No, we've been here about 6 years and never.
We're looking at some additional viewer video that we had come in that also just shows some of that debris flying through the sky. I don't know, you don't really see the formation of the tornado there, of it twisting around quite as much, but you can certainly see that debris just flying through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for taking the time to call us. Really glad to know that you and the rest of your family is safe. We appreciate your perspective. It's really helped us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And as we continue to look at this video, apparently sent to us by Nancy O'Green, you can get a feel for the wind just whipping up, those trees bending back and forth. She's panning around with her camera, and then the aerial view from Air 4, that cul-de-sac, and again, that red house in the middle of your screen that has just been devastated. The entire roof, not damaged,
that's gone.
Ripped off. Yeah. Absolutely gone. Not a trace of it, even, you know, on the lawn or anything. And then the house next door to it, where part of the roof was completely ripped off. And then just to the left of the red house, there's a home completely intact. The randomness of these phenomenon, these tornadoes, is really kind of amazing to see.
Along those lines, too, we're getting word right now from Puget Sound Energy that they have 1,473 customers without power right now. Now, obviously, as somebody who lives in an area that loses power frequently, when you're one of the people who has lost power, it feels really big. But when we talk about a windstorm coming through, 1,500 people losing power really isn't that many. And so to see something so severe, this type of a weather system come through, but to have what is relatively a small number of power outages also just speaks to how precise this was, how it just went through this one sort of smaller area. It did severe damage where it went, but if it wasn't in your neighborhood, you
might not even know about it, right?
Yeah, or if you're right on the outskirts of that neighborhood, as you mentioned, that some of those houses are okay.
I'd like to ask Shannon, if you're still there, Shannon, you know, we see these little tiny pockets of utter destruction, and then right next to them areas with no destruction whatsoever. Is that an indication that this thing was airborne and then came down and maybe goes back up in the air and comes back down again?
Absolutely. And when you see tornadic damage like this in Midwest and in Tornado Alley, you can see how it's so hit and miss. Whereas when you get a big wind event around here, it's much more widespread and much more extensive damage in more neighborhoods. This is so isolated, in particular this pocket around this cul-de-sac that we're seeing, and then across the road toward it looked like that storage facility. But to see, again, right into that home and see so much damage to the roofs there and the structures, so many of those trees that have been toppled, again, it looks like a very strong, at this point we're going likely tornado. Even the Weather Service has gone with that. They have to go out and survey the damage tomorrow, but likely a tornadic event there pushing through Port Orchard. If we want to look back at the Doppler radar again, we'll see when this went through. By about 1:53, big cell coming through the Port Orchard area and past Bremerton. A little bit of a hook on it, which is what we look for around here and around any part of the world when you see a tornado go through. It was a quick mover. By 2 o'clock, it was already pushing out across the water toward Port Blakely. But just a reminder about the Fujita scale, something we do not have to talk about around here very often, and the criteria that would make this an EF2, which would be so extremely rare around here. But that's when you have the roofs torn clean off of well-structured homes. We've seen that in several of those structures there, several of the homes around that cul-de-sac in the south end of Port Orchard. Large trees uprooted. Checking that box as well. Some huge trees came down, as we've seen from Air 4, from some of that video overhead. Light objects are turned into missiles. We saw some of that in the video with all of that swirling debris, big shingles and pieces of wood there swirling through the air. And the winds would be so amazing if this does indeed turn out to be a weak EF2 tornado, anywhere between 100